US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth has gone on the offensive overnight, doubling down on claims that Iran's nuclear facilities were wiped out by American strikes. The Pentagon released test footage of the bunker buster bombs used in the strike on Fordow to show the amount of damage that would be done. The Defence Secretary then criticised the media for releasing a preliminary report that suggested airstrikes on Iran had set back the nation's nuclear ambitions by just a few months.
Because of decisive military action, President Trump created the conditions to end the war, decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities. There's been fawning coverage of a preliminary assessment. I've had a chance to read it. Every outlet has breathlessly reported on a preliminary assessment from DIA. I'm looking at it right now. Again, it was preliminary, a day and a half after the actual strike, when it admits itself in writing that it requires weeks to accumulate the necessary data to make such an assessment. It's preliminary. It points out that it's not been coordinated with the intelligence community at all.
Head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says the Defence Forces don't grade their own work, but explained the amount of damage the strikes would have done.
All 6 weapons at each vent at Fordow went exactly where they were intended to go. A bomb has 3 effects that causes damage: blast, fragmentation, and overpressure. In this case, the primary kill mechanism in the mission space was a mix of overpressure and blast, ripping through the open tunnels and destroying critical hardware. The majority of the damage we assessed based on our extensive modeling was a blast layer combined with the impulse extending from the shock. Imagine what this looks like 6 times over.
It was a comprehensive news conference this morning, and David Blevins has more now from DC.
I suppose if there's one thing that this administration does well, it's television. President Trump was himself former host of The Apprentice. Pete Hegseth, his defence secretary, was a former anchor on Fox News, and Caroline Leavitt, his press secretary, just exudes confidence in front of the cameras. So they have deployed these people in turn today to wrestle control of the narrative, and I think they've done that 2 ways, even during this press briefing, by attacking journalists, sometimes by name. Journalists who were ultimately just reporting what they had received, a leaked report from a division of the Pentagon suggesting that the airstrikes on Iran had only set back the country's nuclear ambitions by a few months. And the other way, I suppose, that they have done it is by talking about the historic nature of this, so making it a question of patriotism, by suggesting if you don't support their version of events, then you are being unpatriotic. You're not being supportive of the US military who carried out the audacious raids last Saturday evening. She used the word history a lot there in relation to those strikes, in relation to the ceasefire brokered between Israel and Iran, and in terms of the agreement reached with NATO yesterday, constantly presenting Donald Trump as the peacemaker. But of course we know he has aspirations in that regard, particularly his hope for a Nobel Prize in due course. We heard it in the press conference this morning from Pete Hegseth, suggesting he had no evidence to the effect that the enriched uranium had been removed from the site. The president then posted online saying there was nothing that they had received to indicate that. But I suppose the thing that's worth remembering is that this is not just about what happened at those sites in Iran last weekend. It's about the credibility of this very White House, because any suggestion that they are concealing facts or overstating success then erodes trust, and it actually fuels instability, because at the end of the day, the American people know that the bombing of Iran last weekend was a huge risk. It does seem to have facilitated a ceasefire in the end, but there was the potential for it to have the opposite effect, for it to escalate the tension in that region, and they simply want to know that the bombing was worth the risk.